Well, first off, excited to be here. I'll reiterate what I said over in the other room. Still trying to figure out the difference in the two rooms. But excited to be here. Thankful for the job that you guys do. I know that it seems trite and it seems like we just say that, but this is a chance to recognize the work that you guys do. And I know for our conference, it's a tremendous job and effort. There's so much passion and energy in our conference, and been a part of it now for, I want to say 15 of my last 16 years, 2003 to now, have been involved in the SEC, not to mention 5 years prior playing football in it. It's a tremendous experience, and I think the quote, it just means more is like perfect, because every time I think about SEC, any sport, it just means more. So with that, I'll open it up.
We'll go over here to the standing on the left.
All right, Coach. How are you a better coach right now than when you first took the job at Georgia? I have two questions. So go ahead.
Wow. I think you don't ever grow until you get, and we've talked about it before, until you get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And you can't get comfortable in this profession. And there are times in my career as a player, as a GA, assistant coach, and then as a coordinator that I can't lie, I got comfortable. And I think moving on to become a head coach, there's a lot of fears and anxiety that somebody would probably tell you they don't have, but they do. And I think with 2 years under my belt, I can finally say that a lot of those are removed. And you feel comfortable with your staff that you allow them to do things. So I think the biggest difference for me is delegating duties and not feeling like it has to all be me. And that is probably the best growth I've made.
And the second question is, a lot of coaches will tell me that a loss will haunt them. I wonder if that loss last year haunted you, and if it does, was there anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah, losses don't haunt me. They motivate me. So if anybody's telling you they haunt you, I don't think that they haunt me at all. It's not like I wake up at night. I think about my 3 kids in my house, my wife, my parents. That's the kind of things that I concern myself with. I don't get haunted by that. If anything, it drives me, it motivates me, it keeps me hungry, because I know to get where we were last year, what it takes is tremendous continuity, effort, all these qualities, and they got all mesh. And it also takes a little luck. And you need a little of that. So we were able to get to a really good place, and we didn't finish it. And we learned from that, but we don't allow it to haunt us.
We'll go down here in the front row, all the way to the right.
Kirby, you coached a number of years on the Alabama staff with Jeremy Pruitt. What qualities do you see in Jeremy that you think will make him a good head coach at Tennessee?
Ooh, a lot of qualities. First of all, he's the son of a high school coach, very similar to myself. He grew up around the game. He learned it at an early age. He relates to players really well. He's very, very, very bright within the game tactically. He understands that the game is about players. It's not just about tactics. He was a big asset for us early on at Alabama that people didn't realize. I think people didn't really recognize Jeremy until he went to Florida State and did it on his own. But I recognized early, I can remember after the Texas national championship game, there was a pressure we hit him with that was some different ideas that he had given us, that he had done before. And I was quick to give him credit and tell him that he was responsible for one of those sacks in the game. I was just the guy that called it. He was one of the guys that helped design it and come up with it. And I think that you acknowledge that as coaches, because I look at Jeremy very similar to myself in the way that we have grown in coaching and the development that we've had, and we've been very fortunate to be around some really good coaches.
We'll go front row over here on the left.
Yeah, Coach, y'all got J.R. Reed here with you today. Were you at all surprised by his impact last year, and what are your expectations of him going forward?
I don't know that I was surprised by his impact last year. I was more surprised by when we got him. We didn't know for sure how good a player. We certainly were willing to invest a scholarship in him to transfer, as we thought he was pretty good. But we didn't know what we had coming in. He not only is he bright, tough, physical, he's awesome to be around. He's very intelligent. Education's important to him. He recognizes that an NFL career is not guaranteed. He had a dad that played for a long time in the NFL, and his parents have been tremendous. Support for him. They've been advocates for our program. So we've really been blessed. We kind of fell into that one, but his impact has been great. What was the second part? Yeah, expectation is to come out and compete and lead. I mean, the reason I decided to bring him today is the leadership qualities he showed towards the end of the year. When you come into a place and you sit out a year, you're still kind of establishing credibility among the team. Then you play for a year, you establish credibility, and now you start leading towards the end of the year. We need him to be that guy that when things aren't going well can maybe make a play or get guys going in the right direction. So, any room with Roquan, so I figured that might rub off on him.
We'll go front row over here on the right.
Kirby, Jake had a couple of lake-related mishaps. Nothing serious, but he did have a couple of things happen. Have you talked to him about that? What were the conversations like when you found out about these?
Yeah, simple conversations, really. I talked to his dad, and I texted with him, but I don't know if you call them lake mishaps. I mean, they're kids being kids. Now, the difference is you know about them. Take that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and I'm at University of Georgia, and there's 7 of us that all room together, and we're all out on the water doing something. None of y'all would know. So why do you know exactly what happened? Because of social media. So that's the only difference. We're acting like this is a big deal. It's only a big deal because you know about it. Things like this happen all the time that you don't know about. And we had guys with broken arms and broken feet and broken wrists and broken hands in the summer when I played that nobody even knew about. There was no microscopic coverage of them. So I'm not going to stop letting a young man live. I think it's great that he goes out and does those things. I think it's awesome because that means he's not sitting at home playing Fortnite all day. I mean, he's socializing, he's going out, he's doing things. I mean, he wasn't on a wakeboard. People think that he wasn't on a wakeboard. He got hit by one on his hand. So I'm not, that's not my concern. I certainly think that Jake Fromm can take care of himself.
We'll go second row over here on the left, all the way at the end.
Coach, I want to ask you about graduate transfers here, and as you've added Jay Hayes here, it's the 3rd year in a row that you've added somebody. I mean, I would assume that you would expect to have a big influence. I mean, can you speak on that trend of adding the graduate transfer and what you feel like the advantages are of going after somebody like that, and then also the things that you have see from Hayes early on. Yeah,
I've been able to see him in our workouts that we're able to go to, and you know, the most unique thing is he's really been a good leader. I think the best thing that happened was having Mo Smith talk about his experience, and Mo was I've never seen a leader like Mo that can come in to a bunch of people he doesn't know and get voted captain by those people he didn't know 6 months later. So Mo talked about being able to walk in and embrace that you have been through what they have been through, just at a different location. So that does not preclude you from being a leader and stepping up, because this is your senior year. You have graduated college. You do have a tremendous amount of experience playing at a place like Notre Dame in big games. So use that. Be you and use that, and the players will embrace you by how you work and what you do around them. And he has done, I mean, knock on wood, he has worked really hard. He works out extra. He goes in on Saturdays. I mean, the guy is just loves the game. And he's out there training and working with our guys and setting a great example. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about the punter as well. But I don't know much about what he can do. We're going to have to wait and see and let him compete. I think that Georgia is an attractive place. Number one, you've got Atlanta. You can fly into Atlanta. So if there's a graduate transfer out there that says, I want my family to be able to come see me play, where better to be than an hour from Atlanta? Where better to play than in the SEC? So that's an attractive, place to go. And we're excited about the future those guys bring. And now we have a track record of a history of some success at that graduate transfer. So they say, well, he's already done that. He's managed that before. Let me go there because I know I'll get an opportunity to play.
We'll go all the way to the right on the second row at the end.
Coach Smart, you lose 2,500 yards and 31 touchdowns with Michelle and Chubb. You've got Swift, Holyfield, and a number of other guys you're expecting to take over. Are you expecting the same production from those guys, or what are your expectations? How do you temper them?
Yeah, I think the expectation, which I talked about in the other room, we don't run from pressure. Pressure is a privilege, and that's the way we look at it. We've earned the right to have pressure, to have expectations on our program. That's no different at running back. Sony and Nick had huge expectations from Gurley and Marshall. Gurley and Marshall had huge expectations from all the guys that played prior to them. So, my expectation is to get the most out of those backs and use their skill sets the right way. We've got some tremendously talented players. I mean, I've seen Brian Herring, Holyfield, and Swift make runs the same caliber of Nick and Sony. They just haven't done it in the same consistency. They haven't done it in the same environments. They can do it. I mean, they go against one of the better defenses in the SEC every spring game, every scrimmage. People don't acknowledge that those three young men are really those two, Holyfield and Herring. They went almost every rep last spring when Sony and Nick didn't play in scrimmages. Those guys did it all. So I've seen them do it. I know they can do it. The expectation for me is to go out there and just cut loose and go play.
Go to the camera platform on the left.
Kirby, right here. 6 new coaches in the conference. Does that speak to the competitive nature of the SEC? Do you feel it makes it better? And any advice you could give to the rookies?
Yeah, I'm still a young coach in this conference myself, so I'm not about handing out advice. Trying to develop our program the best way I can. I do think that 6 new coaches is a lot, and I think that we're in an era of it's getting closer and closer to where the NFL is. The pay scale has elevated due to TV contracts. The expectations are higher. The turnover is quicker, and it's hard to say that's a good thing. But I might not be where I am if it wasn't for that too. So I'm a product of that environment. But I think it's tough. I think with the amount of money that coaches make now in the contracts, the expectations have gone up, and it puts a tremendous burden on presidents and ADs to make decisions on coaches' future. And there's a lot of good coaches that have left this conference, left these positions, and there's really good coaches that just came in.
Over here to the right, second row in the middle.
Hi, Coach. I have a question about true sophomore linebacker Monty Rice. How have you seen him develop as a linebacker in your program?
Yeah, he is a bright young man. He is one of my favorite recruitment stories that I've ever had, being that we were going to James Clemens High School to recruit him. He was really torn. He grew up actually an Alabama fan, but he didn't get a chance to go there. So here he is with LSU and Georgia. He decides to go to LSU in a public commitment, and immediately walks in the bathroom and calls one of our coaches and says, "Coach, I think I just messed up." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This guy," I mean, he was so torn and so emotional that he felt like he made a mistake, but he was willing to fix that mistake, and he's grown as a player. He is a tremendous student. He is always smiling, and he has that I love to practice attitude. Those are my favorite players. It's easy to get guys up for the game. It's easy for guys to want to put the suit on, put the uniform on, and go out there and be that Superman mentality. But the day-to-day work ethic that he has, it's a great asset for our program.
I'll go over here in the middle on the left side.
Coach, when you were at Alabama, one of the reasons Alabama was able to, get back to where it had been in the past is the depth on the team through the recruiting. Their 44 was better than most other people's 44. It seems like you're very close to Georgia to putting that together. What's your assessment of the depth, not necessarily your frontline players, but the players in the case of injury? Are you close to building that kind of program already?
Yeah, I don't like comparisons. I think it's unfair to compare where I was to where I am. I think that's hard to measure because there's so many other critical factors that outside of that. Now, are we in a better place than we were when we arrived? Yeah, I just mentioned out there that I think the 110 players we bring into camp on August 3rd, we're going to have more depth than we've had. We might not have as much talent. We might not have 3 first-rounders, but what we have is a lot of competition at a lot of positions. So we've been able to improve that through recruiting, through development, through walk-on program, and we want to continue to do that.
I'll go over here standing on the right side.
Just go back to the Fromm Lake stuff. What was your initial reaction when you hear, your quarterback broken hand? What was your initial reaction?
Which hand? I mean, that was the first question because that was the most important question at the time was which hand's broken and what can we do? to ensure that he's still able to get the mental reps, the physical reps, all the things he needs. It was not, I'll be honest with you, it was not an overreaction because it was a hand, you know, and once I found out it was his left, and he's got a custom brace for it, and he hasn't missed one rep of anything. So it's not affecting anything. It's just a story for you guys and social media.
Another question. So JR and Terry and Jonathan, really, they said they want to be the best dressed guys. Do you think they are? And kind of, what do you think?
I haven't seen anybody else. So I saw them this morning, and I think they all teamed up. They told me that I didn't get the memo on the bow ties, so I wish they would have let me know that, but I don't think it would have mattered because I wouldn't have worn one anyway. But they all three look really sharp, and our players take a lot of pride in that. And to mention along with that, we have a huge networking event tomorrow night in Atlanta. We've got over 65 companies coming in. We're bringing over 100 players, and it's really unlike what anybody does anywhere in the country. And our players have a big competition to see who looks the sharpest to go to that, to represent us and to network with Coca-Cola and IBM. I mean, all kinds of companies are going to be here, Aflac. So we're excited about that event tomorrow night.
We'll go to the camera riser right there standing in the middle.
Coach, you touched on pressure, the fact that you guys have earned that. How much has that pressure changed for you since you first arrived at Georgia to now, and how do you go about addressing that with your team?
Yeah, you're comparing pressure to when we arrived to now. I don't know that it's changed. I mean, what is the expectation of you guys of Georgia? Well, everybody says win the SEC East every year. Go win the SEC, compete for national championships. That was here when I arrived, and that's still here. So I don't let that control my thoughts and priorities and mindset. I'm really more focused on individual things we can do to make our players better. But it is a privilege. We've earned that pressure, that right to have that pressure, and I tell our players all the time, it's how you embrace it, it's how you think about it. If you let it control you, then it may affect your outcome. If you just go to your day-to-day habits and compete the right way, then you don't let pressure affect you.
We'll go standing to the far right over here.
Hey, Coach. Bruce Marshall at Sports Byline USA. You had a couple of players declare early, Roquan and Thompson. I just want to ask you, though, the process there, it's really tight, the window there between the time your season ends and they have to declare it. I mean, the basketball guys get a couple months. They get a tryout camp. They can pull their name out. Would you like to see that process changed a bit to help out some of these guys who are thinking about coming up?
Yeah, I would love to see it changed. I'm not smart enough to give you the answer how to do it. There's a lot of really smart people out there with the NFL committee. I know Nick's been involved in committees. He's been through it a lot. We talk about it at SEC head coaches meetings, and there's a lot of good brain trust who have not been able to come up with a better way. So I don't want to say the system is broke. Now, I also think that you're talking about two programs that are playing at the end of the year. That's the shortest window, because when it's January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, it's a lot different than January 9th or whatever day we end up playing. So I think that burden only falls on some teams, not on all teams. I would argue that 1st, 2nd, 3rd probably is enough time. I think that good programs, good leadership organizations, they take that into consideration prior. There's a time in December now where there's not a lot going on. For 30 days, you can't just prepare for Oklahoma. So there's a lot of that time that we take and invest and find out information, gather information to try to give them the best knowledge to make the best decision they can. So it's not just that short window. But I do wish sometimes there was a better way, a more informative way. I don't know that the timeline's wrong as much as the information they get sometimes scares me. Are they getting the right information, and how can we get them better information to make the right decision?
Go over here on the end, on the right side.
Coach, you coached with Nick at LSU 1 year way back. I just want to know, what are the challenges of taking a team to Tiger Stadium to play in that atmosphere this season?
Yeah, I coached with him at LSU, and I may be wrong, but I don't think we lost a game at home that year I was at LSU. And then we went there from Alabama every other year, and that was for 9 years. So I know the daunting task. I know the fan base is one of the best in the country at intimidating, just their passion and energy. I mean, it's that way everywhere in the SEC, but they take it to another level with the tailgating atmosphere and the fanfare. They're the primary show in the state. So our players are looking forward to that opportunity. I think it's an awesome environment to play in. I mean, who wouldn't want to go play in their career in Tiger Stadium? I think that's an incredible atmosphere. Fortunately, I've been there and seen it firsthand and know the fan base they have.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go standing back here on the right side.
Over here, Kirby.
with the amount of success you guys have last year, does that in any way make it easier for the guys, who weren't there, now they know what it takes to get to that level? Does that make it any easier with the success you guys had last year?
It's funny. I had a note somebody sent me that said, having the success you had does not make it easier to achieve this year. No past indicators will allow you a free pass. There's no magic pill. It takes what it takes, is what we say. But the experience that our players were able to have going through that stretch run, I think will draw confidence, not false bravado, but confidence in big games that we have in the future. So that part excites me, but there's nothing that we did last year we're going to be able to rest on, because that's not the way football works.
All right, last question. We'll go on the aisle right here in the middle.
Coach, you mentioned to grow you need to be uncomfortable at times. Are you comfortable sharing one of your more uncomfortable moments in that process last year?
Last year, I can share one with you. The first year, coming to SEC Media Days was uncomfortable. But I'm trying to think of last year. Last year I was not as uncomfortable as I was the first year. I mean, I think that you grow in what you do. Everything was doing it for the second time. I mean, the whole playoff run in the national championship game was almost like a blur, because it was literally like sleepwalking from the time we finished the game in LA, flew back on a red eye, landed, that week of preparation, the actual game. I was never uncomfortable in those moments because it was just happening so fast. But there were some uncomfortable moments in the first year, sure, because you were experiencing things for the first time that you haven't done.